Hello, everybody. This is James and Praagh, and welcome to Life After Death and Beyond. I'm with my good friend Kellee White. Hello, Kellee.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you, Kellee.
Well, good to see you.
You're traveling around the universe, from what I hear.
It's been a busy time. It's been a busy time. I had to fly to Los Angeles because I had to go help with my family. My family had a lot of things I had to help with. And
Yes.
one of the things that I had to do, which was really interesting, James,
Yes.
for anybody who's done this, I had to divide my mother's cremains and give them proportionately to family members.
How do you do that?
Well, there's a whole
You
who
take a real
knew?
cup or something, or how do you do that?
Well, we had to.
And how many
Well,
cups per person?
it's a whole deal. In case anybody who's ever done this, and I'd like to. I hope you, if you've done this, please write. I'd like to see it in the comment. What did you do? So we had to. I had a special scoop. First of all, we had to unscrew it and open it up. I mean, it was a real ceremony. Do you know it was a real ceremony?
Outside the house, I hope, or
No, we were on the kitchen table.
Oh, okay.
My mom's favorite place.
Wow.
So it was something. So we scooped them up and put them in strategically in bags. Sorry, Mom, it was in a Ziploc until we get to certain places that we were going to distribute her remains. But it was a very emotional.
Was it?
It was. You bet.
Yeah. I did that once for a friend in San Francisco. He died of AIDS back in the 80s, and it was an old boyfriend of mine. And we had a ceremony at the Golden Bridge, the bridge. And there I am with the ashes. Everyone's around, and I start throwing them to the ocean, and the wind comes right back.
What? You get it all over?
Yeah. We wore him. All of us wore him.
He loved it.
It was fun. Wow, that's that. And there were different emotions with each person, or
it was, yeah. I think we all shared. It was very emotional. It was for everybody.
It's important.
Very emotional. It's been 7 years, and it's time.
7 years, Kellee.
7 years, and it was time. It was really time to move on with being able to put my mother's ashes where she had requested to put them. So that's really what we're going to do.
Which is a really funny story too, but I digress.
Oh yeah,
it's just life is just full of surprises.
It sure is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh! And so tell me, you did something today that was unique. You went to see an acupuncturist. Which had quite an experience with this.
It's a man who was through my friend Linda and Michael, friends of mine, and this man had some kind of cancer. And I don't know the fullness of the story, except that Michael and Linda when you come out here to see me, we'll go to their house. They have a big labyrinth in their yard, overlooking the ocean.
Wow.
A simple house, believe it or not, when they moved there years and years ago. But she's an artist, and they've created such an incredible healing sanctuary. And this man went in the middle of this labyrinth, and all the friends came, and they did a healing on him, and he had no cancer. But he was known as a healer before, but he's an amazing healer. He does acupuncture, he does massages, Reikis, and he's for many, many years. And his wife is an intuitive. I'll be seeing Friday at my event here in Encinitas. But I worked with him once before I received acupuncture, and it was just phenomenal. And they said to him at the end of it, I said, Matt, I want to say, first of all, thank you for creating this sacred space, for doing this work, because you walk in, it's the clearest space, purest space I've been to, and I can't tell you. And today, I just got back from that session, and he worked the man. He said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "I'm just here to let you work on me, charge me up, whatever you feel you need to." And Pearl was with me.
Ooh.
That was interesting. So she had to calm down, but she did once. It was amazing. He did, and he did the acupuncture, and he does massage, and incredible, right? Perfect depth and touch. And then he did 4 main centers for the liver meridian, and and didn't feel a thing. And then he just closed your eyes, and that's it. And then you don't know if he's in the room or if he's left the room. You have no idea. But I started seeing very, very clearly these beings, and I can only describe it as beings. I can't tell you what no faces, maybe one face, but more like robes. They're all different colored robes, and there were robes like violet robes, and there was robes like, I can't get the colors, like an aqua color, like a light bluish purple. It was just, and some of them had embroidered. They were all embroidered, but one particular one had this darkish bluish purple. I could say gold embroidery, and they said to me, pay particular attention to what's embroidered on here. So I thought that was fascinating. And I didn't overthink it, but I was brought in there to the embroidery, and it was all different patterns. And it was almost like patterns of life or something. It was very interesting, I thought. So it was felt heat and coldness and expansion and constriction and then opening, and it was amazing. And afterwards, and he was sitting there, I found it the whole time. And
Wow.
it was quiet. And he was, at one point I checked in, probably like 40 minutes into it. I just checked to see if he was there. And I opened my eyes and he wasn't there. And as soon as I opened my eyes, looked over, and he was right there in the chair. He went,
wow.
he was holding
That's
space,
amazing.
and he was working on me energetically the whole time. It was pretty. I've had a healer from Brazil and from around the world work with me, and he's one of the top ones that I've been to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great experience. Wow.
Great experience. Yeah. So then it came back to life. Called a friend of mine and said 3 teeth extracted and this and that and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh boy, I can't get a couple of seconds just to enjoy the moment. So,
Right.
But I
So
enjoyed
true.
coming here. So I'm looking forward to this.
And
I'll tell
Margaret
you-
wanted to know, what was on the embroidery? Were there words?
Nope, there weren't words. It was a design. I could say Egyptian. I could say Greek. I could say a combination thereof, or I could say something I don't even know about. That would be the closest
Yeah.
thing. And even the colors were something I don't experience here. Well, yesterday I was listening to, Victor Zamet, the lawyer of
Yes.
the afterlife in Australia.
Yeah.
He sent out his newsletter on Thursdays. And this last one, he had a wonderful NDE, a lady with an NDE experience in a video. And there's a man, it's true story, and he's very cute. Shaman Oaks. Shaman Oaks. Shaman Oaks.
Like Sherman Oaks.
That's right. That's correct.
Which is where I am right now.
I assume he lives.
That's exactly where I am right now. Sherman Oaks.
I just came in my head to say that to you. But Shaman Oaks, look at him. He does his whole podcast. I guess you said his podcast. It's all about NDEs. The whole thing. Fascinating. And I've seen several of them. But one the other night, I was watching through Victor Zamet's newsletter, was this lady very down to earth, and she's struck by lightning. And she's pulled out of she's not pulled out, but I was floating. I just know I was floating. And all of a sudden, I felt my grandfather around me. My grandfather came close to me. And then I was in this lovely garden. It was beautiful. And they showed pictures of this, amazing garden, but it was recreated, but pretty amazing. And he brought me to this bench, and I sat down on the bench, and the bench wrapped itself around me, like full of love. And my grandfather died a year ago, so I didn't want to see what he looked like, but he just knew that I was there and I loved him. And he said, over that mountain there is where you can go. You have a choice now. If you want to stay, if you want to go back, you can.
Wow.
But here's a little about your future. And he said, you're going to have a girl. A girl. She goes, yeah, she's already picked you as a mother. She goes, oh, really? And he showed her the girl. And she goes, oh, I know that person. And that was that. And then he said, now, if you go back, you'll also get a divorce. And he said, and tell her some other things. And he said, but if you go on, this won't happen. You'll go on. You have a choice here. And it was very interesting. She said, I'm going to choose to go back because I want that little girl. So he said to her, well, I'm going to tell you 2 things. I want you to remember that, I forget the team, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And George H. Bush is going to get in the White House. He'll be inaugurated. Those two events. That was the year it was, right?
Wow.
Those 2 events. And she goes, why are you telling me this? And he said, because you're going to forget everything about this until those 2 events. Then it's going to open you up. Sure enough, she forgot all about it. And then she saw those 2 events, and she remembered she had this past life, this near-death experience. And she wouldn't tell anybody. And she started having nightmares. She'd have nightmares, and she would dream of airplane disasters, and she would tell you the name of the people and the passengers on the plane.
Wow.
And the Hudson River was the one that she saw. So a bunch of them. Another one, she said, a very down to earth lady. She said, I cannot mention the names because there are survivors still around. She said, but this plane blew up in the air. But I was on that plane, and they show it with AI. They show this plane, and she said, and the lady next to me with her son, she introduced herself to me like a cocktail party. She said, and it was very interesting. And I got to know her and her son. And the lady said to me, please take my boy. Please take my boy. And before you knew it, the whole plane broke apart. And I was out of the plane, all these souls are going up. She's going up, and there goes the woman and her son. And she goes, 2 days later in the paper, well, she said, I called my mother, and she said, 2 days later, there was a plane crash, manifest of all the people. And that was her name and the son's name.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that wild? So that was
This is amazing.
Shaman Oaks.
This is from Shaman Oaks.
Shaman Oaks.
Should we have him on our show?
I was thinking we should
We
probably.
should.
Yeah.
Let's have Shaman on Shaman Oaks. Sherman Oaks. Shaman.
So, and tonight we thought we'd do a show, everybody, about there are common messages that spirit comes through with a lot of people, and we thought we'd kind of maybe open the floor up to some questions too, maybe. But Kellee, what some of the most common things, messages you get through the spirit world?
I'll tell you one. Well, first, I always get, and I'm sure you do too. There's a lot of love. I always get a lot of love, and that's why I always like to start with your mom. There's a lot of love here. You can just feel it. But one of the ones that keeps coming back, and it cracks me up every time I hear the same message, and it goes like this. Your mother says she's very sharp now. She's very sharp now.
She's very sharp.
Sharp. She's very sharp. And they say, like, what do you mean? She's very clear in the mind. She's very clear. And they will say to me, she had dementia. Well, she wants you to be damn sure that you know she is clear in the head now. That's a big message I get. Because, when somebody passes of dementia or Alzheimer's or anything to do with that, they leave the body. They don't have that.
Yeah. And your mother didn't have any kind of coma, did she? Or no?
No, no.
I just wonder if there's a reference there. Yeah, it happens all the time.
I'll tell you what the reference is, James, is that my mother was really proud of her brain. And so whenever I get somebody on the other side, anybody, could be an aunt, a grandmother, a grandfather, a father that is sharp, sharp, sharp. It comes through like that, but they're proud of this. But when there's been an illness of the mind, dementia or Alzheimer's or any of that, because, that effect can go on for years. And so they want their loved one to know that they don't have that anymore. Like, they don't want them to think of them in those terms.
True. Very, very true. Yeah, I wrote about this in Talking to Heaven. There's a reading of this girl's, I believe it was her father, our grandfather father, came through, and he was very shocked when he went to his funeral, and he was a very well-known man, very big guy in this world, I guess. And he was very shocked that there weren't many people at his funeral. And the reason why was because he had Alzheimer's for many, many, many years, and all his friends had died.
Oh.
That wild.
Oh, that is wild.
That does happen. And it's just incredible. Oh, one more thing, I need to go back to that lady who had a near-death experience. When she's sitting on the bench with her grandfather, there are 4 these orbs in the air, like purple violet orbs. And she said, what are those for? And she just knew in her head, they represent linear time. And one of those orbs represents 2 weeks in Earth time.
Now that's really interesting.
Isn't it, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, give me a common message that you tend to get.
There's no death. There's no death. Of course, love is a vibration. They come in that love. And one of the first things that we feel when we leave the body, when we leave this suit and free of it, we go back to the love world. We go back to a space of love and expansion and happiness and joy. And I think we talked about this last week or the week before. They don't want to go back to the test tube, like this test tube, the limitations of the body. And they're free of it. So they want to tell everybody there's no death, because the living people often think of them as dead. Yeah. Boy, isn't that an insult?
Yeah.
And because they're not dead. And they say, we're not dead. There's no death. That's the greatest solution, the death. And the other one is that we're separated, when really we're not. We're one. We are all connected to oneness. Oneness is the energy, ONE, omnipresent, nurturing energy. It's what we are. We are one. We're part of everyone, every living thing, every pulse of every living thing. We're all part of it. It's another message I get quite often.
The message I always get too is for forgiveness.
Forgiveness
is a big one, and you know what will happen is, if, let's say, there was a father that was alcoholic, drug addict, alcoholic, and there was a lot of abuse in the family. What happens on the other side is they will go to the other side, and they'll be dealing with that. They will do their own, what I'll call therapy, or they go through their own cleansing of the illness that happened to them while they were on earth. And they'll get to a real clarity place where they will want to ask for forgiveness, because there was, through traumas and through all kinds of things, they had their own issues going on. So I get that often, James.
Yeah, yeah, you're so funny because you're packing a lot into what you just said, right?
I did. So unpack me.
So I'm gonna pack you. So
Okay.
yeah, forgiveness totally is the number one way because we're all the same, we're all one. And it's so funny. It goes back to that story I mentioned once before in the show about the boy that was killed by a drunk driver, and his
Exactly.
father in the audience, and the son said, "Mom, you have to forgive the driver." And the driver lived, by the way, and the boy died. He goes, "I've forgiven him, but you have to. That's your lesson. I can't forgive him. How could he took you away from me?" No, Mom, you need to trust me. You need to forgive him because if you don't forgive him, it was like a wall is going to be put up in her life and energy can't flow. It's going to be blocked. And he says it's going to affect every area of your life. And he says, not only for you, but generations behind you will be affected.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Really interesting. And
Mhm.
forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. We really, I mean, we can't have that rotting. I always think if you can't forgive someone, it's just rotting inside you. You don't want that. You want to think the best of. And you never know why things happen. For instance, and I don't think we should wait to die before we know these things. My brother, he just passed over in January, and interesting. I didn't have a great relationship with my dad in that I didn't really know my father that well. And he was always working. He didn't have time. And when we got together, it was on a Sunday. Since my brother passed over, I've seen my father a lot in 20 years. And I got the realization, probably from my brother, who had a hard relationship with my dad. They used to fight quite a bit. And he said, I'm working on a relationship with dad. And he sent me or showed me or made me aware of my father worked every single day. He worked in the morning and he worked at a night job in the theater. And the only day he had off was Sunday. He worked double a matinee on Wednesdays and Saturdays. My mother was an alcoholic. So when he came home, she'd be drinking in life. And then Sundays was the only day off. And he used to force himself to take us to the beach, to take us to a lake, to take us on a picnic, wow, he worked his whole life. And then only that one day to have rest, he took us out. So I have a whole new perspective of him than I ever had before.
Wow. So did you feel a lot of the love for him? A
I
lot of
felt so
deep
much love for him,
understanding? Yeah.
respect for him, and
Yeah.
and thank yous and appreciation, which I didn't know when I was with him.
Wow.
I
That's
never had that.
huge.
Huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. Yes, huge. So one thing about the other side, messages from the other side, which I like to do, is I like to turn things inside out. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
always find like when they give me something, what's the inside of that message? So whenever I do sessions, which I'm doing Friday night here in Aziz at the Seaside Center of Spiritual Living, I'm excited. It's my first live demo in a long time. So I'm excited. I always like to find out what's behind the message. What's the meaning behind the message? That's really important. And I find the message is for God. It's for everybody there. Everybody in the audience. But forgiveness and also I'm sorry, apologies, regret, resentment, regret. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I was never taught love, so how could I show you something I didn't know about? Or I'm sorry I couldn't do that because I wasn't raised this way to know some certain things. A lot of regret in that respect when they come by many times,
Yeah.
and messages, lots of regrets. And I feel, I'm going to say sorry. I have empathy for those who come back. When they pass over, when you pass over to that life, you're everything you had in this life. Your life over there is created by what you did in this life or what you didn't do in this life. And one of the biggest things that we have over there, of course, is and we regrets. We pass over certain regrets, should haves, would haves, and could haves. And we don't want a life with should have, would have, and could have, which you guys all done here now while we're still in this body. That's why we're here physically, to experience those things and to demonstrate love and kindness, compassion, forgiveness as best as we can.
Yeah.
It's very interesting about besides messages that come through, ways they come through. I'm always like learning. I always like that sense of always learning. Every time I do a reading or a session with someone, I'm always learning, and I think you have to have that openness of curiosity, that art of discovery. I remember it was so interesting. A couple of times, well, many times now, a lot of drug overdoses with fentanyl and all that sort of thing, and before that it was heroin or whatever. And I mean hundreds and hundreds of suicides. But it was one or two of them that said to me, I was met by my family, a 17-year-old girl. I was met by my family, but also I was met by this person, that person, that person. And who are they? These are also people that passed over the way I did with suicide. It was an accidental overdose with drugs. And all the people that helped her, the ones that greeted her, besides her, were these people that passed over the same way she did.
Wow.
Why? Because they have the same mindset. They know how I would feel when I came over here. That they were there to help me.
Wow.
That's,
Wow.
isn't that
Oh,
interesting?
that's really interesting. Really. You know what I find too, James, is that families will say to me from the other side, they're talking now. they're talking now. They're having discussions of what it was like with them on Earth, and I always find that really interesting.
And it's so funny because when they talk on the other side and they will say, I'm working out with my sister, my father,
Yes, yeah,
working things out. And it's such a different perspective. And they talk like the earth like this. Like my sister Lynn came by last week. She just came to me. And I said, well, where are you? Are you our brother? She goes, no. She goes, I'm in my own community here. She said, I found like-minded people who I can relate to. And they're teaching me about different aspects of love of myself, which I didn't get on the earth, and how it could have loved myself more. And we're all in this little community, the same thing, helping each other out. And I feel at home there, she said. I feel that's my
oh,
home. I said, do you see our other relatives and mother and father? She goes, I see them when we need to. When we need to, because everybody has their work over there. Everybody either going to school, missionary type work, helping people, going back to learning things. There's so much going on in that world. There's so many, we call them libraries, so many ways of information over there and things you want to do but weren't able to, learning different aspects of your soul self, different abilities, understanding who you are, understanding relationships that you had on the earth, why you took this character, why you took that character, the roles you played. You see how your thoughts and your actions created certain things and didn't create others. I mean, so many people get on the other side when they look and see how their thoughts and their actions hurt someone. That might
truly.
that might take a little bit of time to heal that,
Mm-hmm.
time to heal themselves.
Yeah,
And they got to go through that. And that's a tough
right.
one. And
Well, that is a tough one.
yeah, because they're in a mental world, so all they have are their thoughts. And we beat ourselves up down here. Imagine if there was no time and there was no way to say I'm
Oh,
sorry. Just
yeah, yeah.
so,
How would a soul on the other side come through for us here on this side if there had been, let's say, a big accident, somebody passed away? How do you think a soul from the other side would show, maybe to get the other person's attention here?
all different ways. So it depends on the soul itself. But I mean, I brought through, you name it, I've
Yeah,
brought it through.
yeah,
Nine
you
11,
have.
airplane crashes, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires. One girl said to me when she died in a fire, big accident,
Ooh.
fire apartment building, she died of flames. She smoked
Oh,
inhalation. And she said, I said, what the first thing you did? She goes, I turned around and helped people over. I turned around and helped people over because I knew I was
wow.
going to die. I knew I was going to die. Isn't that
Wow.
amazing?
That's
But
amazing.
there was one reading I did, which was really pretty trippy. I got to say, still get tripped out by it. It's always children that trip me out because it was a Saturday. It was in my apartment in Hollywood where I used to live. And it was a Saturday morning. And this lady came with a little son who was about 9, wearing this red shirt. And we're sitting in my little office there. And all of a sudden, I know who she wanted to contact. I'm sitting there, I'm seeing a plane, and I'm seeing the workings of the plane, or the board, if you will, the flight board there, and then where the pilot is sitting, and all the dials. And I realized that I am the man. Look at the dials, and I know it's her husband. And I said, "Your husband's
Ooh.
here." And he's flying this plane. I said, "This mountain," and he has another boy with him. Oh my God, he goes right into the mountain. He couldn't climb up. And
Oh.
she goes, "Yes, yes." And the little boy there, I think his name was Derek. Little Derek. Derek died with him, and she had the brother, and Derek came through really well. The father said, we're not dead. We're alive." And he's a couple of things very important. Number one, he said to tell her, and this has come through thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And Kelly, you must have had this too.
Mhm.
They say, I didn't feel a thing. I
Exactly. I
did
was
not
just going to go there.
feel a thing. I don't feel, and they don't. You do not feel a thing with death, with a car crash, with a heart attack, with a plane crash. You don't feel it. You lose consciousness right beforehand. There's
Well,
like
and the soul automatically just leaves.
the soul leaves before
Leaves.
the impact. Oh,
Yeah.
always happens.
I've always had that, James. Yeah.
Yeah, always happens. That's a real important for everyone to know that. And then he said, "So we're just fine here. We're growing up. We're fine." And the little boy said to his brother, Derek said to his brother, "You're wearing my shirt." Sure enough, the brother was wearing his shirt, his favorite,
Oh,
with a
oh my
dinosaur on
gosh.
it.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that. I had a very similar thing, James. I had a family that all went down in an airplane, the same family. Only there was a brother left, and the brother didn't get on that plane, but
Wow.
everybody else passed away. And they all came through and they all said exactly that. They talked about what he did, is how they loved his music. They were still listening to his music, and how they loved it. They left him with a special bag that he had at his home, and it was really lovely because in that bag were all things that the family it makes me wonder if on some level the souls had an idea, because they left this one boy who remained alive a whole bunch of their favorite things. So he would always have that keepsake, which is fascinating, right? I mean, here
Yeah.
they leave, and
Perhaps their higher selves did that.
had to have been, had to have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Many times when they come through too, I notice this, and I wish people take more attention to this. They often will tell us to think of ourselves the best aspects, the best parts of ourselves. You know, you're a creative being. You need to use that. You need to be more kind to yourself, love yourself more. And they often with the positive attributes that a soul should have, instead of us thinking of the negative things and limited things that we humans tend to, you know, based on society programming. But they always want to give this positive attributes that really want to push that for us to believe in that, to know that about us. Because when you pass over, all you have is a little time you lived in this earth. You want to make sure it counted and that you loved yourself enough. You loved yourself enough. You know,
I get a lot. I'll hear them say, "Don't work as hard as you've been working. You don't need to work that hard." I'll get that a lot.
I say it to that to you every week. What are you talking?
You say it to me too, but I'll hear that from that side with their families. You know, that will say that if it's up there, have more joy in your life. Go out and do some fun things. Go to that movie. Go to that dinner. Eat that chocolate.
Yeah, I find them saying, "Love yourself more love
Love
in
yourself."
your life."
Yeah.
Common theme is love yourself. Because we come back to this vibration, this three-dimensional world, this limited place. I don't know, something we forget about love. I don't know, we just. Oh, one more thing I just about. I'm sorry, I keep going back.
No, keep going.
When she said, I was just so, and I've seen thousands of these, but this one stuck out. He said to her, "Well, if you're going to go over that mountain," and he goes, "then that'll be another world for you." He goes, "Now you see those other people sitting in the other benches over here?" She goes, "Yes." And then she explained, each one of those people can have their own world that's going on right now in their head. One might be an Olympic star. One might be working in a circus. They might be looking back at their lives, because this is kind of a way station before they pass all the way over. That's like really interesting. So she said that. Then she said the grandfather said, if you want to go back into your body, which she ended up doing, and she was in the hospital 2 months with burns in her legs. He said, "You're going to feel a lot of pain. It's going to be very, very painful, but I can get you back if you want to." He goes, "Yes, I want to go back to that little girl." But remember. So she said he squeezed her so tight. She was like down to her bones. She was like, "Wow!" Next thing you know, she was floating she was in her body.
Wow.
Wild, right?
He brought her back into the body.
He said, "It's going to be tough, but you got to squeeze you back into that body." He goes, "You know, your conscious now is expanded. I got to bring it all the way back, limited now." So that was
right. Oh my gosh. You know, this is a really good question here. What about a message for the people who've decided to end life support? Like how, you know, and I've had a lot of that where somebody will have to, you know, pull the plug if you use that term.
Yeah, you know, I just think it's done out of love. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's one of the most compassionate things you can do for another human being. We do for our animals, what can we do for human beings? And I think it's a compassionate thing to do, especially if they're just waiting, buying their time. I mean, I don't understand it. I personally don't. Everyone has their own belief in it, but I don't believe we should be in pain here. I really don't. Maybe some souls have to experience pain. Maybe they have to go through that for their loved ones to learn about love and pain and forgiveness, whatever, while the other one's still in the body in that suffering state. But I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I don't think we're meant to experience pain so much. I really don't. I think it's, yeah.
But I think also if you know that it's the time to do it,
you
need to do it.
Yeah, and honor the request of the loved one too.
Absolutely. And there's all huge, not only is there forgiveness for that, they are like, "What took you so long?"
Oh, I had a friend of mine, she completed suicide. She was 82, 83. And she used to, Olivia, remember Olivia?
Oh, you do.
And she used to say to me when I first met her, "Can you get me something to take me out of the body?" I said, "Excuse me, I'm just meeting you." And she belonged to that society of the Oak Society, whatever it was, the white, whatever. And it was, I said, "I don't have anything for you to go over." Anyway, last I spoke to her, she was, I mentioned it before in the show, but she was going to a home of some kind, and she would never have wanted that. So she did herself in, and she got some fentanyl online, and she got some, and she had it. And her daughter told me, which is so funny. I mentioned it before here, but it's such a funny story. Her daughter said, "James, I feel really bad." I said, "Why do you feel bad?" She goes, "Well, my mother's favorite drink was Irish whiskey, and when I came to the apartment, I saw that she went to get the bottle of Irish whiskey for her last drink. And I drank it before I left last time. I didn't fill it up. So she went to get the bottle and it was empty."
Oh my God. Will she
Sharon and
forgive
Sophia
her?
over it. Yes. And we just laughed, and Olivia was about laughing. But Olivia said, "You said, well, how did you find yourself after a suicide? You know, because there's so much in our culture." She goes, "Oh, please." She goes, "If I knew how great it was, I would have done a lot earlier."
Wow. Wow.
So I
Oh my
think
God.
suicide from an 80-year-old is very different than a 40-year-old or a 20-year-old, because she probably completed most of the lessons that she came back for, and she did her work. You know, and another thing this lady said in the ND, we hear this a lot in the messages that come through. Wow, give yourself a break. Give yourself a pat on the back for having gone through this. It's a hard world, this physical world, this
Yeah.
human world. You don't realize how hard it is until you pass over. And Violet, my friend Violet, who lived in Laguna Beach with me, I put in the back of my book, Unfinished Business, her picture, and she came back right away and said, "Oh, James, I wish human beings would give themselves a pat in the back for having lived here. It's a really hard place to be, the Earth world."
Such a great message, James.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is such a hard place.
I also get another message, very common message, which is stop worrying about me. Stop
Oh,
worrying about me.
yeah.
That energy of worry does nothing for me, but
Yeah.
upsets you. I don't want you upset. Please don't be upset. And they don't like worry energy. And they say also, don't think of me as dead. It's just, why do you think of me as dead? I'm not in the ground. I'm not in that jar. I'm with you. There's
I'm
no
not in
death.
that Ziploc bag, Kelly.
I'm not in that Ziploc bag. It's symbolic. It's symbolic. But that comes a lot, as you know. I'm
Yeah.
not dead. You know,
Yeah.
don't worry about me. And prayers do work. They receive prayers
Yes.
of
Yeah.
love. And I often hear spirits say, pray for yourself too. Don't forget about
I've
yourself.
heard that one. Yes. Yes. That is so good. Um, so here's a question for you, James. This is a good one. What if you're an organ donor? Does that fully change freeing your spirit? What does that have to do with?
Oh, I have a great story.
Oh, tell. Please tell.
This one. I was in Berlin once. I was
Okay.
on a TV show called the Vita Show. And the Vita Show was a very popular show, like Oprah was here. And it was in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, I think, late 90s, 2000s. And we're in doing this show, doing readings. And we took I guess it was a break. And all of a sudden, I said to this lady in the audience, I said, there's an Audrey here. And she said, you have her heart. You have her heart. And she goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And to go back, I have her. And it turned out, literally, this lady had a heart transplant. And it was this lady's Audrey's heart. And she,
Okay.
her
That's
heart.
amazing.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
You have a good heart. You have my heart. You have my heart. Yes, I do have her heart. And suddenly, I like beer. I've had that also, where suddenly there is a change to like beer, or they like salted this, or they tend to. Sometimes it happens. I don't know, it's
Mhm.
organ memory, but I've
Yes.
had that experience too with soul spirits have come in.
Oh, that's so funny. And often that's a contract made with the other side before you incarnate.
With those
If
two
if
souls.
you need something like that, what's the contract that would be made?
And also, there's another one, Kelly, which is common, which comes in often when someone passes over who was very handicapped in this lifetime,
Yeah.
physically challenged, mentally challenged, so forth. And I have found the one young man, Billy, came through. Well, he's older, I guess he's 20, but his sister was this was a long time ago. His sister had a reading with me. And he was in a wheelchair his whole life. He had cerebral palsy and pretty affected. And he came through, and he was a master. He was a master. And he said he came back in that condition to teach others about unconditional love, teach them how to treat him unconditionally with love. So that was great.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So here's a question from Princess Fiona. Can you tell us what a pet feels or does when they are getting ready to be put down?
Oh, sure, I went through it with Maisie, my dog Maisie, and we prepared 2 days before. And before this podcast, I was speaking to a friend of mine who had to put her kitty down yesterday. So, and she was speaking to her, Marilyn from Australia. She was speaking the kitty
Oh,
for a while.
sorry, Marilyn.
Yeah,
Oh,
so they're some more aware than we humans are. They're out of the body, I'd say days before. They're out of the body and enjoying themselves. And that's just the final, is that they can't get back into the body. But I think that animals are constantly going in and out of the body, like we are too. But I think they're much more conscious of it. But they're free. There's no pain at all. We attach so much on pain onto us humans and animals, and we apply so many human traits onto animals, and they're not like humans.
right, right.
I was just talking about this today to my acupuncture people. And so true. I mean, gosh, they're such a different. I said last week, I think they're in a different world than humans when we pass over. I think they have their own worlds of animals, because they behave so differently, and yeah, just my
That's so
feelings.
true. So here's the question, James. When are you going to when is everybody going to get to read your autobiography? Your life is simply amazing, and you've touched so many of us in so many splendid ways.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. Thank you. I'm still working on chapter 1. Life's been a little busy with workshops and it's my retirement, but I'm getting back to it. I think tomorrow I'll be at start chapter 2. So I'm working. It's a slow work in progress, but I'm getting to it. But I have a lot of stuff going on right now, so just get a lot of that
done. Busy time, but you'll do it. You're going to do it. Annie has a great question. She said her dad lost his leg from a drunk driver. Does he have both legs in spirit?
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. I often bring through that when they have, they didn't have a limb or they had diabetes, had to cut it off or come back. And one of the first things they say, I have both legs, or
yes.
I love this one. I'm running again. I'm running again. And they couldn't walk in their life. I'm running again.
That's a big message. You're absolutely right.
Another great one is I'm dancing with your father again.
Oh, huge.
Right? I'm
huge. And they'll say, but my mother was in a wheelchair for 20 years. Yeah, that's right. Now she's dancing. She no longer needs that wheelchair.
Right. That's so human. And this is another interesting thing that comes in a lot. When there's someone comes in, we've talked about this, and they say, where's my father? And I said, well, your mother and father, they lived to 50 years. They were married. Yes. Well, they're not together now. Well, what do you mean they were married 50 years? No, they're in 2 different worlds. What do you mean they love each other? Well, they still do love each other, but they've gone to where they have to do work or they belong. They can still see each other, but their works are in different places. And that's hard for people to understand. They can still see each other, but they're in different places. Just like I think, United States, a lot of states, one country, but that's a lot of states. So there's all different states of awareness, states of consciousness, that happen, but they can still see each other and they can be in several places at once. Really
so how old do you look in spirit, James? Let's say you're 80 when you pass.
Well, this lady in the NDE said, I looked at my hands and all my wrinkles were gone. The brown spots, age spots were gone. She goes, I was 30 years old. So I've heard from 28 to 34. So whatever you desire to be at your prime, whatever age you choose to, you go to. There's a story, another NDE, where this is very interesting. This man at his NDE and his guide took him into this space. It was a healing hall. And my friend Peter told me about this. It was on our show. And that the guide said, come watch this. And this other man came to this like tunnel thing. And he was sitting there, he was all withered. And this man who he's with, he had knowledge, touched his hand and it turned into a very young hand. And then he watched the process of going back to that young age.
Wow. So, that's fascinating.
A lot of things that I often talk about are the worries that we carry with us. We don't need to. They don't mean anything. And another thing I want to share with everybody, which is quite common message. I get this a lot from mothers and mother-in-laws and grandmothers and some fathers. But this is great for you, Kelly, and good for me and everyone. You have all my dishes packed up in boxes in the garage. Why do you have them packed up? Why don't you let somebody else use them? What good are they in those boxes?
Okay, we heard that, that's what I did over the weekend. I'm just saying, crystal, china, silver, whatever. Do not be not using this. Like Kelly, use this. Holiday, use this. Carol, use this. Oh, yeah.
I hear that.
We all heard that loudly and clearly. Yeah.
Yes, it's true. That's a big one. They don't want the things to be wasted. They want it to help another person, which makes sense. I mean, that really makes sense. Why hoard all that stuff? It doesn't mean anything. You have them in your heart and your memories. And
the other thing, James, it's really about, for many families, the loved ones that shared food around the table or beautiful tables, or those are the memories. And they always say this, create memories. Please create memories.
That's right. And those are items to create memories by, not necessarily for you, but for someone else could have them and use them. So exactly. I think one of the greatest joys is giving something that you loved and you owned and giving it to somebody else who would use it and really enjoy it themselves.
So true, James. So true. Okay, here's a question from Tracy Markley. She says, when someone has dementia and they're in hospice, are they already partially crossed over? And it feels like they're here telepathically. She says, do they hear her?
Yeah. So that's very common, by the way. And what I believe, and Kelly, you might have a different experience, is that we go in and out of our body all the time. Our consciousness shifts every day. We go in and out of the body. We might not be conscious of going out of the body, but the example I always use is, you're driving the car and also, wait, there's my exit. Where was I? What did I know about that? Or you're reading a book, you don't remember what you just read, so you got to turn the pages back. Or watching a movie, you're like, what just happened? I got to rewind. You're not here. You're here. You're out of the body. So easy. It's like just a breath away. So when they're in that condition, that is just again the human condition, but they're very, very alive in conscious states. So they're in a different. They're alive in another conscious state, looking down at their bodies, seeing loved ones at their side. They are partially and partially out. No doubt about it. Even before you pass, like let's say 3 day Earth time, 3 days, they're usually in and out of the body. Very much so. My dad was that before he passed. Oh, we wanted him to go, and he wanted to go. He said, "Why won't you leave?" He goes, "I don't want your kids fighting over the house." That's what he said to me. And then we promised him we wouldn't, and he died like that. So
Oh,
they certainly want us to let them go, and they want things settled before they pass over. Anything that's not settled, it's hard for them to go. So if there's a fight in the family between siblings or whatever,
well, let's talk about that message because that comes through a lot.
so
They'll
quite a
say,
bit.
"You're still fighting with your brother. Can you guys come to some healing with that?"
Bring healing. Write them a letter. Write them a card. Saying
Yep.
first, don't let it go undone. Don't. It's one of the worst things you can do is not to complete it and take the high road less traveled. Because
Exactly.
I mean,
Like,
you gotta eat some humble pie sometimes. Just do it. It's the right thing to do. I've done it
well,
many a time.
James, what I always say is we're all going to come to earth. We're all going to be betrayed. We're all going to we're all going to have a situation, It's
That's
what you
true.
said about humble pie and again, you have to set strong boundaries. We're not suggesting that you don't. We understand that.
Yeah,
But
you have to love yourself enough to say no.
yeah,
You
yeah.
let yourself say, "No, no, that's unacceptable to me." And don't let people walk on you. Don't be doormats. That's the worst thing because that's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, here's a good question. This is from Leila Jenkins. She says, when someone has a life of extensive addictions,
funny, funny, funny. Okay,
what do they experience in spirit? So addictions, here we go. All
I wrote
righty.
that down. Addictions.
Good.
So, yeah. So I believe that there are places over there. There are healing places over there. There are
Exactly.
what I call 'em recovery centers, whatever.
I
There
call them
are
healing centers.
healing centers that people go to have let's whatever what addiction say, alcohol or drugs, let's say in this case. And we can talk about all different addictions, by the way. But they're therapists, if you will. They're great people
Absolutely. Healers. There's yeah.
and therapists, healers, insiders. I want to say the word insiders who have either had the experience, know about the experience, and can help you to heal your heart, heal your soul, come back to wholeness of being. I guess you would say wholeness of being is the best way I could describe it. Because I feel many times, and this is very interesting. I was doing some work, and one of the students, I went up to them afterwards, and I said to them, "You have to stop with drugs." And he goes, I said, "You got to stop." Now, how did I know that? Because I saw the auric field, and it was ripped and it was torn, and there's certain areas of it, and I knew it was drugs. And he said, "Okay." I said, "You need to because you're leaking. It's leaking. Your prana is leaking.
So true.
It's leaking, and you cannot do that to you can't do that to yourself. Fine, exploration with it is fine, all that, but don't and nothing abusive. You can't abuse yourself. Can't do that. So there are those spaces that they work with you and work with your mind, the mind of the addict. What made the addiction? What made it so real? Why do you have it? What's the source of it? Why do you
Well, and
tend to?
then that goes back to trauma.
That goes back to trauma. Says healing with
Yeah.
trauma.
Healing the trauma.
For a lot of forgiveness in that space as well.
Totally.
When you pass over, you go through a big forgiveness place, whether that's seeing your members of your family or friends or other past relationships you've had. There's a lot of many times we find that those people that we had the traumas with or the relationships are the ones that come to heal us.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true, James. Oh my gosh. So
And smoking,
here's a big one.
all
Oh,
different types of
oh
addiction.
God, for sure.
All
Here's a
depends.
big one. How do those pass over? Do they feel guilt for how they left? Let's talk about guilt on the other side.
Interesting. Um, I've rarely had that, Kelly. I don't know about you. I think I've rarely had that. Even suicides, we think there would be. I've not, I didn't. I've never really had a lot of that stands out. That's guilt. I have had a lot of regret in the sense that
Yeah.
I could have done better. I should have loved more. I should have lived in love instead of fear. I should have lived my life instead of somebody else's life. Why didn't I love myself more? I should have taken more chances. Those sorts of things I've had. And it's always self involved. It's about self, about self. Or I could have loved you more, or I could have but I never really, like, for instance, let's say it's a parent who gave a terrible life to their child on earth. And the child is, having a reading and they come through. Um, it's that same thing of I didn't know how to treat you because I was never taught that. That wasn't part of my experience. So how can I create something I didn't know about? And I always say, we judge them. Why should we judge them? We need to go really back in their lives and see what happened to them to be a certain way. And the lovely movie in the book, To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's lovely lines, but you don't know anybody. You don't know someone till you walk in their shoes for a little bit. And it's very, very true. You don't know anybody. So everybody has a beginning and a backstory. And we don't know what their backstory is. So you got to be empathetic, because if you had that same history, you might have done the same thing later on.
Exactly. That's a great answer for that. And yes, instead of guilt, I would have used regret.
Yeah.
Regret. And by the way, even if you have a father or mother out there, or a relationship that you were in where somebody was a personality disorder, whether it was a narcissist or a borderline or something, and you think, can they possibly have any insight? And yes, on the other side, they can begin to have insight, but it would also work with having what I would call, get-togethers with their spirit guides, or get-togethers with, therapists on the other side, so they start to understand their behavior. That's
And
been my
also,
experience.
and also, Kelly, I think, and I don't know till I go over either, but I think there's an aspect of this that, we come back, we work. Just a theory that I have. In some lifetimes, we choose to come back to work in the physical body. Sometimes we choose to come back to work just in the mental body. So we take on some mental experiences, such as narcissism and bipolar, and maybe it's for ourselves, for our soul group. And we work sometimes, in the spiritual body. So I think sometimes we come back to work on those specific types of bodies to integrate them one day in time. But I think sometimes we got to come back to experience bipolar, narcissism. I really think that has to come into wholeness of being.
Mm-hmm.
Same like spirituality. Some people come back there and then they're in a cult. They have to
so true.
Power in themselves.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
There's so many things physically. There are people that are physically challenged. Maybe they're learning something about the physical body that, so I think it's all a little part of it. It's all integration. And I think we learn on many different levels. That's my theory anyway.
That's a good
but it's
so Bridget O'Connell says, what if they are upset with us?
Why would they be upset with us?
I've never had that experience.
I've never had. It's the humans that people ask me some questions. It's a very human question.
It's a projection.
It's a rejection. So what have you done wrong that you want think that way? I've never had them think that way. I really don't. That's not my experience. That's the human, very human. It's a very human, black and white judgment, fear based. It's very human. That's not who we are. We're natural loving beings, and we are that. We go back to our pure self when we leave this physical world. But some things are embedded so strongly within the physical mind of us, this mindset, that our mindset has addictions or behaviors, and so people might act out, and they'll find they can still act out that way on their side. They can still have it to say they love their drinks, martinis. Let's say they love martinis. And they can have that, they can drink that, and they can have food, as much food as they want. They can play golf. They can do anything. They can have anything they want. And eventually, they'll get to the point of like, I'm kind of over this now. I'm done with this now. So it naturally burns itself out. That sense of desire of that particular thing burns itself out. Just like, when you feel like, I got to do a new job. This job, I'm done with this job. I don't get anything. I got to move. I got to move to new locations. It feels like I'm done here. Same thing with that, with those desires we have.
Right. Here's a good question. This is from Jeannie. She says, in some countries, schizophrenia is considered a divine gift. What do you two think? I have a thought on that.
Yes.
I have a thought of that. When I had my traumatic brain injury, I would have been considered schizophrenic because I was talking to the other side. But what happened for me is I realized a couple of things. There was no such thing as time, and there was no such thing as mental illness.
Right.
It was exactly wherever the trauma was that was going on, but there was no such thing as mental illness. And schizophrenia can be a gift. I know it's a challenge.
Again, like I love your expression, putting on a new lens, seeing it through a new lens, right? Uh-huh. Same thing with what happens to people that are born with such difficult mental illness. Why would they choose a kind of hardship? From our perspective, it's hardship, but from a spiritual perspective, it's a master's class.
It's a total master's class.
Yeah, advanced class.
Total.
The hardest lessons there on the earth, or what appear to be the hardest ones, we'll go to other ones that we grow from the most.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Oh my gosh. Here we go. This is a good one. What happens? This is from Diana. What happens if you really hate someone on earth who treated you badly and you meet them in heaven?
Oh,
Is
you
the
will.
hatred still there? Oh, you will.
Oh, they'll be the first to meet you.
You know, you do a meet and greet, you'd be like, no, you go away.
So then that goes back to self. It always goes
Yeah.
back to self. You can never blame another person for your behavior. Can't, because you're in control of your behavior. So it goes back to, why do you hate? Why do you choose to be that way? Even when someone does something difficultly that hurts you, why do you have to go to that level of hate? Can you step back and say, wow, there must be something going on with them? So I think it goes back to yourself, and you'll feel the hate that you have. You'll feel it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times stronger than you did on this earth for yourself. Not a
Again,
good place to be.
we're here to have forgiveness, love, compassion, kindness, empathy, even though we're all going to be put through the ringer.
And you're gonna be walking around thinking, "Oh my God, I'm full
Okay.
of hate. I'm so full of hate and rage. There's no time. I'm full of hate. I'm full of hate." Around and around
Right.
and around.
Exactly.
You don't want that. You
Oh,
do
you
not want
so
that.
don't
Break
want
that
it.
cycle. You don't
Oh
want
my
that.
gosh.
You wanna bring that with you. Trust me.
Like Annie's asking if we could do a part 2 on this subject.
Sure. Sure.
We will do that, Annie. I think it's a good idea.
Sure. Oh, wow, it's already 6:50. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Man, time is flying by.
It is. Here's a quick one from Leshel Grass. She says, "Can our family members who have passed over guide us, watch us, lead us to the right road?" What do
They
you
do.
think of that?
I think they do all the time. Do we listen? No.
Yeah.
But they guide us all the time. They help us. They nudge us. You know, I'll many times I'll be leaving my house and all of a sudden I hear, "Your wallet's back in your bedroom. Go back and get it." Fair enough. I go,
Okay, so before I left this trip, guess what I heard? Get your passport. Get your passport, Kelly.
sure, sure.
It's true.
It's
It's
all the
very
time. They're
true.
always around us. All of us.
Yeah.
They're always everyone's around us. We don't do this alone. Everybody. We have
Oh my gosh.
unseen helpers and loved ones.
So, James, on May 9th, you are doing a live evening in Encinitas
I
for
am.
live readings.
Yeah, demonstration. It's locally here in San Diego area. There's some tickets still available, and it's the first time I've done a demonstration publicly in a long
It
time.
was so fun, you guys.
And I'm
Yeah.
going to do a different one this time. I went there on Sunday. Great center, spiritual center. It's one of the best I've been to in the country. It really has. It's Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind based on.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's great. So I said to them, what I'm going to do, when I ask Spirit, can we do this? When I bring a message through, I'm also going to ask the Spirit, what are they doing on the other side? And can they describe it so we can understand it?
Just so much fun to see
Fun
and to hear.
So it'll be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my gosh. Wow. And I have oh no, you have this. I thought it was mine.
This is the big one I'm pushing right now because I think we have 5, 6, there's some seats left. And really, it's a healing the mind, body, and spirit, letting go of those traumas in the mind that imprison the mind. I'm working with Sue White, who's an incredible healer and yoga instructor, and she's right now in Greece doing workshops all over the world. And she's going to work with the body, letting go of traumas that are in the body. And then spiritually, we do the whole day of spirit, where we do intuition and mediumship and teach you different ways of empowerment. So that's now. So please sign up at myvanpraagh.com.
Oh my gosh. All right. And I have Roots of Healing on June 20th to the 23rd. If you're in the Los Angeles area, come join me and Dr. Shirley Pelizzeri and Carrie Gonia. We're going to be talking about family constellation and traumas and working through everything through somatic work and attachment theory and shadow work. And I'm going to be talking about Dharma work. Why are you here? Let's get on with why you're here. So please join us June 20th to the 23rd in Burbank, California.
At
At our favorite hotel. No, not at the Hilton. It's at the Great Hotel in Burbank.
The one we were.
Where you get to bring your dog if you want. Bring your dogs. We love it. Pearl
I'll
loved
be
it.
there. I'll do my best to be there.
Please come down, James. It's going to be so fun. So please join us. We have a few tickets left.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you, James. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, bye.